So, in this video, Mary Moriarty is facing intense scrutiny over allegations that her office prioritizes political ideology over consistent law enforcement. Now, as we get into this, the critics will argue that while she aggressively pursues these charges against law enforcement, such as ICE agents and state troopers, she simultaneously offers lenient plea deals to violent offenders and declines to prosecute activists and vandals.
A Minnesota district attorney critics have labeled America's wokest prosecutor is vowing to go after ICE agents in her state. And you know what? She's keeping her promise. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty has now charged one federal agent who is accused of pointing his gun at two people who cut him off on a Minneapolis highway 2 months ago. Moriarty spoke about the case today.
Is Hennepin County prepared to go head to head with the federal government?
We absolutely are. And I should say we were able to charge the case because we don't have those obstacles. We expect that once Mr. Morgan is in custody, that we start the process. We are investigating the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and the shooting of Julio Sosa Solis. I do expect other charges at some point here.
Meanwhile, Moriarty opted not to file charges against this man, a state employee who admitted to keying 6 Teslas, which caused about $21,000 in damages. She also has yet to charge the anti-ICE mob accused of attacking Turning Point USA reporter Savannah Hernandez at a protest in Minneapolis last weekend. The outrage over Moriarty has been building for a minute. Last year, the left-leaning Minnesota Star Tribune called her an embarrassment for Minnesota. Kaylee.
Yeah, this woman is probably one of the worst legal actors on the scene in the country, and I am not overstating that. So we talked about the punk, that's what I'm going to call him, the employee who allegedly engaged in damage of those vehicles. But what we have not talked about is this. There was a Somali national in Minnesota. This Somali national was accused of rape. This Somali national was not just accused of one rape, was accused of 2 rapes. He pled guilty to the rapes. He met one woman online, and then another 15-year-old is the person he's accused of raping. He goes before the court, he pleads guilty, and then guess what? She doesn't give him jail time. He gets out scot-free, and allegedly, while on probation, he meets another woman on social media where, guess what? He holds her in a hotel for 6 days and proceeds to assault her. And then the feds come in, and Pam Bondi gives federal charges to this guy. But this DA is the one who let him out. But if you're an ICE agent defending our country, protecting young girls, Jocelyn Ngari, Laken O'Reilly, Rachel Morin, she's going to come for you and keep you from doing your job. This is inexcusable. If there's any way to impeach her, she should be impeached because there are young women who have been hurt, allegedly raped because of decisions she has made. That is inexcusable.
Well, and it's my understanding, Kaylee, just to further this a little bit, that on her plate right now is the mob against Savannah Hernandez.
That's
so, yeah, I mean, she's got plenty of work she could be doing. Dakota, your response?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've seen this, especially over the last 6 years. I think the American people have been previewed to the more politicization of the judicial system, right? And I think it's a very slippery slope of being able to pick and choose who you want to prosecute, the pressure that comes down on them politically because they are appointed. These judges, they have a ton of power, they have a ton of responsibility, and so on that, they're going to have to step up and start taking control of this. And then, but there's no accountability to them. That's the problem. Is where's the accountability to these judges when they don't get it right, when they do this over and over, and they continue to show this history of a politicization of their appointment.
Emily?
So I looked up her prosecutorial record. So she's just been there since 2023. The level of destruction that she has caused in just a couple years. The case that you cited, spot on, Kaylee. Before that, 2 teenagers charged in a contract killing. She offered them plea deals, juvenile detention and probation for a year and a half. This triggered, by the way, the attorney general taking the case away from her, citing her rank incompetence. And note too, and I say this all the time, that the constellation of the criminal justice system has a position and a space for everyone. There is a defendant's advocate in the way of a defense attorney in the big machine. Everyone has their cog. I don't need the prosecutor to take that role too, because who then speaks up for the victim? Who then speaks up for the state? So that's just one example. And then you contrast that. Here's the thing. Her egregious lack of prosecution and offering of plea deals to these lowlifes is in stark contrast to any time there's someone in uniform. So she charged a trooper with second-degree murder in a stop. That too, the charges were dropped due to evidentiary concerns. It reads like a flip-flop ladder when you look at her history, and it is so obvious. And by the way, she instructed the rest of the cadre to include race in all plea negotiations and plea decisions.
Look at that.
After which, the DOJ started a civil rights investigation. So this person has been investigated, had cases taken away, rebuked, called an embarrassment by the Minnesota Star Tribune, and yet somehow enjoys the bench still. You're right, she needs to be impeached, and I cannot wait for President Trump to install much more judicial judges that aren't activists, that actually will protect or prosecute the criminals.
Yeah. Protect the victims is
Thank
what
you.
you were trying
Yes,
to
I'm
say.
going to mix
You're
up
right.
judges and prosecutors in that, in my
Donna.
ranting and raving.
Well, and
You're not right.
has anybody been to Minneapolis lately? I mean,
I lived there for many years.
Minneapolis used to be a beautiful place to go, and now you cannot go downtown Minneapolis. And what I don't think people realize is these prosecutors that don't enforce laws cause that. That's why your living situation isn't as good. That's why you can't go downtown Minneapolis and have dinner, because this is what happens when you have prosecutors who do not enforce laws. And then when they pick and choose, and I agree, I mean, I'm all for law enforcement, but a law enforcement officer shouldn't point his gun at anybody on the road when he is in his regular capacity as a person. That's not, anybody should get arrested for that. But then you should also arrest other people that are violating laws, whether you agree with their side of the aisle or not. And when you
That's right.
when you make your prosecutions based on the way you feel politically, you're done. I mean, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. That's a lawless society. A lawless society is one that does not follow the black letter of the law, and that's what's happening. And no one wants to go to Minneapolis. No one wants to live there. You can't live downtown Minneapolis anymore.
You know, I lived there for many years. I met my husband there. We were both on air there for different stations at the time. And the Twin Cities are gorgeous.
Yes.
The whole state is magnificent. Their politics have gone in such a way that the politicians have so much control. I mean, just look at the anti-ICE protests themselves. They wouldn't allow local police to even help when they knew that ICE needed help to even keep the peace for the citizens who were there. They couldn't even get to work because these idiots were in the middle of the street blocking their homes and their roadways. It is unbelievable, but I believe in the people there, and it's sad. I want them just to have the great lives they used to have.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, right? Like, but where is the accountability on the prosecutors and on the judges? You know, it's in their best interest to stay more politically aligned with what their decisions are, because even if it gets thrown out later down the road, they can say, well, we tried to do it, but something else got it out. There's no accountability in that aspect of the people that hold the people accountable. It is like, and it's very dangerous for you to have leaders and people to be able to sit above the consequences of the decisions that they are responsible for making.
Yeah, really. I mean, there's a lot in there, but yeah. Okay, so ICE agents that overstep their bounds. I did see the video where they got out of the vehicle. I think the other vehicle was following them, and they were in a red SUV. And one of them comes out and holds his gun up and points his gun at the drivers that they cut off. So I think that's a bit extreme. Like I said in another video, assaults on ICE is over 1,000%. I think still. I don't think it's gone down at all. And that's going to keep them on edge. So then they go and they have to find people in these streets where, you know, they have to go into places and whatnot because the local politics are against ICE. They're against Trump. They don't like any of that. So they're not going to cooperate with ICE. They're going to make it difficult. So that forces them out in the streets and to deal with these people that believe this nonsense from the media that ICE is kidnapping people, arresting and disappearing them, and American citizens, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think there needs to be accountability. However, that needs to come from judges who are not woke or not politically motivated, because law should, justice should be blind, right? They shouldn't use their own prejudices to make decisions, and that's why you have all these people getting let out. Another issue is like we'll be talking about in a video regarding the teen takeovers and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson not wanting to arrest or bring harsh punishment to a lot of these teens going through the city at night and causing destruction of property and shooting guns and all that stuff because they happen to be of a certain ethnicity that tends to get arrested. But this Justice Moriarty, this Judge Moriarty, letting these people out gives them the message that, hey, I can do stuff and not get in trouble for it. Or the punishment is very little, right? You know, I really hate to say this. This is a thought that's been coming up to my mind. And I don't want to create more victims to set a better precedent, but you have these judges that release these sex offenders, these child predators into neighborhoods or whatnot, where there's kids. And then, with Moriarty, you have these justices like her who release these people who do violent crimes. What if they got released into the judge's neighborhood or the judge's family's neighborhood? See, like, I hate bringing that up, but it comes to a point where because it didn't happen to them or someone they love, they don't really understand the gravity of the situation of letting somebody out who shouldn't be let out, who should be deported, who should be incarcerated. Like, I forget the guy's name, but Arena Zaritska, the guy was, a career criminal. He was recycled in the system 20, 30 times in Charlotte, and he was let out. Eventually, he killed somebody. He could have prevented it. He could have just kept away for life because obviously he doesn't know how to play nice with others, and it becomes very dangerous. There's so many implications from where you let people go out and do things when they shouldn't be doing things, right? A lack of safety is a center point of rot in a city, right? It's like a cancer of a city. Businesses can't operate. People don't go out and spend money. People move away. Property values go down. Tax dollars go down. Police support goes down because they can't pay the police, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Anyways, what are your thoughts on that? What were your impressions of these woke activists? And shouldn't Trump or any other president hold these people accountable, put them in jail, make them face the families who were destroyed after they let them out? Something like that. They need to face the consequences of their leniencies, of their woke, ideologically motivated decisions to let these people out. Let me know what you think. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and ring that notification bell. Appreciate you listening.